fucking amazing. Do your mom know you do this?
That I'm a police officer?
No, that you harass people of color.
I'm not harassing you.
Do you? He's harassing me. He just pulled me over for no reason. And now his buddy is taking forever. They just called back up. When I asked him to call his supervisor, he didn't want to do that. Now he just called back up.
Now that you're calm?
I've been
calm.
That
we have your ID?
I've been calm.
I've been more than
That's all he wanted. He wanted to intimidate me to show that he can get me to give him my ID. Now that is a form of kidnapping. That's a false arrest. He is not supposed to do that. But I gave it to him because my son is in the car. And if he would have shot my son, then we would have been on some other shit right now. So can I please have my information back? I want to make sure that my license plate is in front of my car because I know it is.
You'll have your
and I need you to hurry up because I'm on my way to take my son somewhere.
You'll have your information when we're done.
Make sure you're recording him too.
Okay.
And make sure your body cam is on. What's your name? Gordon 282. Goodman 282. Okay. This is what happened when you know and you talk too much. They don't like for you to talk and speak up for yourself. So they call other officers for a child and a woman.
Now that you're calm and we have your ID, would you like to speak to our supervisor?
Who's your supervisor?
I'm asking if you'd like to speak to him.
So I've been asked for your supervisor.
Okay, so you still want him to come here?
Yep.
Okay. Adam 23 to 3071.
Where's your headquarters?
Station.
Where's your station?
Would you mind responding?
924 said station.
Where's your station? Where's your station?
901 East 14th Street.
9 what?
901 East 14th Street.
901 East 14th Street. Why is he here?
Because your behavior was erratic.
How is my behavior erratic?
Aggressive and confrontational.
Aggressive. See,
yes,
this is the words that they use to make you seem like you're irate when you know what you're talking about. So when you defend yourself, they start to use irate, erratic, threatening, vicious. I thought I saw something. That's what they start to do. They use these words so they could defend themselves for pulling you over for a false reason. Please know your laws. Read the Black Laws Dictionary because they don't go by the same laws that they say that they put you under. Matter of fact, they don't even have the same jurisdiction that you have. They're private citizens, which means they can harass and pull you over and gun you down in the street and nothing will happen to them because they're private citizens. But if you go after their insurance, then you can dig into their pockets because the insurance companies don't like that. When you go after insurance companies for police falsely pulling people over, they have to keep giving $1 million settlements. They keep murdering people for no reason. The insurance companies don't like that. So when you know your laws and you go after them in the right way, then you can know how to really get them where it hurts. So I got my son recording.
Welcome to a special edition of the, let's call it, Revolutionary Blackout Live Tuesdays. We weren't going to go live today, but then I start, doing what I do, looking at Twitter, and I'm like, damn, these are some topics that actually need some rebuttal, that need some discussion. So I put this together literally last minute, and we're going to be covering some interesting stories. I'm going to put up the graphic in just a second, but had to play this video as an intro. I've been playing it as an outro for a couple of streams, but I wanted to put it on as an intro because the intro part gets a lot more views, and I want people to take note to what she says about going after the insurance companies. Going after the insurance companies, because you notice, and I'm going to back it up a little bit, you notice he didn't give a flying F until he mentioned insurance companies, and you see him peek to see, oh, is this shit streaming? Is this streaming where she's talking about telling people to go after insurance companies? That tells you that's the target that we need to pivot to. Yang them in lawsuits, land accusers and complaints, go after their insurance companies is what we should be doing. So let me back it up just a little bit, just so you can see he perked up when she mentions insurance companies. I think it's right. Let's see here. Right there. Okay, so I'll go back here and let it play. So let's listen.
Pull you over and gun you down in the street and nothing will happen to them because they're private citizens. But if you go after their insurance,
watch this.
Then you can dig into their pockets because the insurance companies don't like that. When you go after insurance companies for police falsely pulling people over, they have to keep giving $1 million settlements. They keep murdering people for no reason.
This is information, rights of people that we don't really want them to know they have. We don't really want them to know the real route, the real path to attacking this corrupt, racist police state. So he's fine with you streaming them, just doing all this stuff so he can put his 2 cents talking about you're talking erratic because I'm raising my voice. That's erratic to you. You have the gun. And you feel threatened by a raising of a voice from a female and a kid in a car. And then they wonder why people hate their fucking guts. Just astonishing. Actually, I don't think they actually wonder why people hate their guts. I think they do. Now, maybe the ones who are fooled by the police state and actually, watch Paw Patrol, and all these of propaganda, there are some people that may join the police force that, I'm here to do good. I'm here to clean this up. Who may not know this. But they soon find out, and they either quit they either quit or they become part of the problem, because you can't be considered a good cop if you sit around and watch bad cop do a lot of bad shit. You're not a good cop. Okay, so again, great video. Can I put this link in? Yeah, I'll put this link for those that want to go check this video out themselves. I'll put the link in the description box so that you can go check this out for yourselves. Like if you want to watch it, credit. It's from TikTok, but the link I have is the version of it on YouTube. On Twitter. So it is now in the description box if you want to go take a look at it. But let's see what we're going to be talking about today. We have a lot of interesting topics, and I started out with a different graphic, like a temporary graphic, waiting for Aaron to finish the permanent graphic, and the permanent graphic is what you see when we open. This is the temporary graphic. I do want to show you because it has the phrase broad appeal. And that's one of the topics, because RFK has broad appeal, but the progressive media, progressives, and the pseudo left, the NATO left, the boutique left want to pretend like having broad appeal is a bad thing. So if if conservatives are saying, wow, you're saying something good, and liberals and progressives and left are saying, wow, you're saying something good, if you're appealing to all those people, that's now a bad thing. If your message resonates with anybody left to the right of center, you're a right-wing a Nazi who's preaching Putin talking points. So let's pull up the actual graphic. So this is the final graphic here. And I'll just go left to right with the topics here. This is not any particular order. But you see Emma starting on the left. Emma Vigeland is the dumbest person in politics. Is that it? And we just have another video. We covered a video of her going on the Tim Pool show, and it was an absolutely terrible argument about the Ukraine war. And now we have another video of her talking about MSNBC is at a different is worse. I'm sorry, Fox News is at a different level of propaganda than MSNBC. So yeah, we're gonna cover that. Next one, we have Cornel West and Jill Stein, or Dr. Jill Stein and Dr. Cornel West. And Slate has put out a smear piece actually today. And Jill Stein tweeted a smear piece talking about Jill Stein being part of the Cornel West camp. And we'll discuss that. Then we have Ice Cube and Joe Rogan. And they briefly talk about RFK. But I got to say, probably the main story and the longest segment, what will be the final figure on this graphic, and that is RFK and his broad appeal, but how it's being spun in corporate media as something that is bad. And we have some case study QB video clips to talk about that. So let me first get to a couple of comments, and then a couple of your comments, and then I got to announce a couple of new members. We have some new YouTube members in the RBN community, so I'm going to shout that out right now. Let's do that now. Let's see. Oh, so we have two. The system automatically stars, meaning sort of puts into a what is it, right? A category all of our super chats, but it also does our new members, and we have two new members announced. This one is radical leftist extremists, and then Justin B. The name sounds very familiar. I'm pretty sure you're a regular. The name sounds familiar. So Justin B. also. So welcome to new members to the RBN community on YouTube. And if you're brand new, because we actually have been getting a lot of new members, literally overnight, we gained another 200 since yesterday. So for all the new people subscribed, we do have RBN YouTube memberships. There's a join button on the YouTube page, and sometimes they have it somewhere near the video that you're watching now. So if you're watching the video, somewhere in there, it'll show some join button, and you can see what types of perks you get. The other thing, join our Substack for if you want to get notifications when we go live. Like, this is unannounced. So if you're not on our Substack, you would not have gotten a notification of this, and you just had to, be in the right place at the right time and just see our stream go live. Other than that, get on our Substack for when we go live or we drop clips. Couple of other announcements. We do have the Labor Organizing Summit Saturday, July 29th. The Labor Organizing Summit Saturday, July 29th. And it's in conjunction or jointly being put on by Worker Strike Back. You can see them down there. Of course, Shama Sawant will be appearing. And then it shows all the platforms we're going to be streaming on, from YouTube to Facebook to Rockfin to Rumble to Twitch. All of those platforms we're going to be streaming on for that. Okay, now I believe we can get to the topics. And we got about 200 people watching. So let's make the target 125 likes. Let's make the target 125 likes. That'll get us started here on this 4th of July. And whether you celebrate 4th of July or you don't, let me see, the goal is, what did I say, 150? Yeah, and I think last time I checked, we were at 70. So we have a little bit ways to go. Let's put it up there. So currently at 70 likes, 150 is the target. We've hit our peak viewership was 200. So now let's get into it. I think I've gotten through all of the announcements I needed to touch upon. And now let's get into some of the topics. Oops. Let's hit the back button here. We're going to get into some of the topics. One of my more interesting topics is we're going to be starting with American pride declines. This is a topic that's not on the thumbnail, but as I was preparing for this, I go to all the corporate cable news outlets. So I went to Fox and watched Outnumbered, and their first story, and actually what they're talking about a lot, I would say 60% of this episode is about how American pride has declined. And they even go to some YouTube person who's talking about, basically, they're in shock about how people feel and what they're expressing on 4th of July. So American pride declines. And that's where we're going to start here. American pride declines. Where's it at? Before we get to this article, let me bring up, this is outnumbered, okay? Prepare yourselves. Get your Dramamine out. Prepare yourselves for this segment. So let's take that down and put up, I really like this black background. Let's see. Yeah. It's not mean to be like a blue, black, or green screen, but it's turning out to be like that. But American pride declines, and we're gonna go to outnumbered and watch what they're talking about here. Let me see if I should. Yeah, let me rewind it all the way to the front here. So let's listen, and I'll stop and start many times to discuss.
Here's the American pride. That American pride is on the decline. A recent Gallup poll found just 39% of adults took extreme pride in our country. That is down 4 points from 43% 2 years.
Oops. Give it a second.
Years ago. But this trend is anything but new. Look at the chart. Pride in our nation has been on the decline for the last 20 years. And there's an interesting distinction when you look among political parties. Gallup found that 60% of Republicans say they were extremely proud, while just 29% of Democrats did. And the Wall Street Journal released an American Pride poll of their own earlier this year, with just 38% of Americans saying that patriotism is very important to them. In 1998, that figure stood at 70%. But American pride isn't the only traditional value.
This goes out and out for some reason. Just give it a second.
Heading out the door these days, that same poll found that 39% of Americans think religion is very important. Now, that is down from 62%, also from 1998. And now, for the first time, a stunning new.
So, are they trying to connect? Are they trying to connect the downward spiral of American pride to people's participation in some sort of religious activities or just religion in general? That's what they're trying to connect. So even since the beginning of time, all the way up until now, this is the same sort of propaganda tactic, that it's almost like godly. You're more in line with being, you're godly if you're godlike or godly, maybe that is the right word, if you have American pride. They're kind of tying these two together. And let me play it a little more. I don't want to give away what she goes into here, or what they go into. So let me play it a little more before I comment further.
A new Fox News poll shows that a majority of Americans believe the country's best days are behind us. And a Gallup poll found that nearly 70% of Americans no longer have confidence in our national government.
70%. Oops. Yeah, 70. Is that going to stay up? 70%. Look at that. Do you have confidence in the national government? I know I don't. To me, 70% is kind of low. I would expect those figures to be in the late 80s, with only roughly 10% saying that it's not. The 10% that's the higher echelons as far as economics. But 70% say that. This is the signs of a collapsing empire. People's faith in institutions have been, or institutions have been exposed. They've always been this terrible, but they have been exposed. So their faith in institutions, which is what a lot of people in established politics put institutions over actual rights. This is the reason why you don't see Joe Biden and the Democratic Party going after in any tangible way the filibuster or the Supreme Court for taking away rights, because they believe that the institution is more important than the outcomes, than your rights, than the people's rights. And they are shocked with the decline of income, the increase of income inequality. They're shocked that people's confidence in the country, people's pride in the country is declining. It's truly That's what's shocking to me, is that you're shocked about that.
Let's start there. Joe Concha, right to the middle. They're in the hot seat. What do you think?
Yes. But one other part about this poll that really stands out to me. What is the best country to live in the world? Is the U.S. the best country to live in the world? So they asked American voters about this. You go back just 5 years, 83% said the U.S. number one,
83%,
best country to live in. You go to this year, it's down 20 points. So we're not talking about
63%.
the 1950s when everything was really great.
That's amazing.
We're talking just 8 years ago, and we're seeing such a precipitous drop. And I think, Molly and ladies, the reason why is we see so many institutions now being weaponized, whether that's, we saw it during COVID, we saw it with the Department of Justice, the FBI, we see police being demonized. A lot of it goes on in the media. We see a border that's open right now, essentially, where 7 million people have come into this country since Joe Biden.
So here is the part where that Cornel West is going to be addressing when he goes to Trump country. That's this. So they identify the problem that we all have: inequality, economics. Doesn't matter, Trump supporter, rural or versus urban, black, white, indigenous, Asian, Latino. It doesn't matter. We have that. But what this channel is doing, what Fox News is doing, is why Cornel West has to go to Trump country and sort of talk to these people. Who are they blaming it on? Who did he just list? We're talking about, what we're saying, what people have been saying about the police. You mean how they're killing everybody and people's ideal of them has been unmasked, or they have been unmasked to a lot of the population who thought they were good? And then he talks about open borders. You see the scapegoating, you see the scapegoating of capitalists, scapegoating everything but capitalism. On the blue side, they scapegoat a whole different list of things, but on the red side, this is what you have, and this is why Cornel West has to go to Trump country, and I'm happy he's doing that. Let's continue.
Biden took office. As a parent, I see ACT test scores at a 30-year low, and I say we can do better. You defund the
schools. Well, if you don't fund education, what do you think test scores? What do you think is going to happen to test scores? Capitalist arguments are landing less and less, and because the logic in them it's so transparent. This is not logical, and it's specifically because of the things we're going through: the pandemic, inflation, sending all this money to Ukraine, and austerity measures. So let's continue. Let's see what else he said here.
Better. So these poll numbers are understandable given the current state of the country. When we talk about education, inflation, crime, we see it in Philadelphia and Baltimore, these horrible shootings, and the Democratic leaders there are saying this is the new normal, just accept it. No, we shouldn't accept it, and that's why we're seeing this precipitous.
So he's saying because the border and the shootings and not respecting police, that is what's bringing the unhappiness, not that capitalism is bringing the unhappiness and the people are reacting this way. The chicken before the egg, I guess, is what he's here. But let's continue.
Precipitous drop, Molly.
Yeah, there's an enormous amount of polarization in our politics. Here we are heading into an election year, unlikely to improve heading into an election year where people are trying to kind of divide and talk back and forth. But Tammy, your thoughts on these numbers and how much we've seen the shift so dramatic over these recent years?
Yeah, I think in part it is about communication. It's about media. It's the internet. It's that we might have a feeling about what our family is feeling, what our neighbors are thinking, but now we see everybody, right, who's got vocal cords online and talking about
They're talking
what
about
it is
us.
they think, and that's fine. But it gives you a false idea, a false sense of the nature of what's happening in the country.
So the people who are experiencing and just putting out their ideas based on what they're experiencing, their friends and families' experiences, that's not accurate, is what she's saying. Your own experience is not accurate to describe what's happening in America. Absurd.
in the country. That whether if you hear people, you think it might be the majority when in fact it really isn't. And of course, with young people online and with social media. But I would concur with Joe is that this is, I think it's not at all about people actually having a deep change of heart about the country. It's about reacting to the nature of what's going on inside the country. And we have to remember, unlike other countries in the world, we're still a baby country. We are really the first country that is united and together, not because of geography or because of language or because of 2,000 years of history. It's because we've come here and we've decided we're a country, and it's about the ideas of this nation. So when we see those ideas being kind of strangled, it worries us. But the founders anticipated this, and that's why we have elections every 2 years, and that we can make a difference. And that's why it can shift from 8 years ago, and we kind of are worried about the future. Well, we don't have to worry about the future because this remains the best country in the world, which allows, and we should expect this up and down.
Just because she says it.
But then we have to act because we're the sovereign. Today is a reminder of that, and we can do it. We'll do it again in a year and a half. And we've just got to stick with it this time.
Yeah. You know, when Gallup first asked this question, January of 2001, 55% of U.S. adults were extremely proud to be American. Then after 9/11, what a change. Extreme pride soared, ranging from 65 to 70%, that lasting from 2002 to 2004. And Kara, Tammy just raised that interesting comment about the internet and social media, and your thoughts on that, because that's kind of a world that you're an expert at.
Exactly. And I think I want to bring into the conversation specific digital platforms. And there's one in particular, TikTok, that 67% of American teenagers are on TikTok.
Wow.
They use it in some capacity. 16% use it almost constantly, in their words, according to a 2022 Pew survey. So this is a massive problem, especially when it is effectively beholden to the Chinese Communist Party through its parent company headquartered in Beijing called ByteDance.
Oh my God, that's the parent company. But guess who runs TikTok? An American company out of Texas. We did a segment on this. That's who runs TikTok now. So they're still, again, this is just scapegoating instead of telling their audience this is capitalism and capitalism is imploding. Instead of saying that, they have to bring up all these sort of scapegoating sort of things. But let me show you to the point of them saying, because we're going to also talk about 4th of July since we're talking about this. So let's go to a graphic I have. Where is it? This one. This is the thing that's triggering them. This has 3,500 likes, this clip or this meme right here. And it shows what is this called? Wherever these people are on the wall, I forget what it's called. And then it gives a different perspective than founders and great people of these clowns we call the founding fathers, aka the founding colonialists, the founding slave owners, whatever. But we use the founding fathers for some reason. Let's see, George Washington, dentures made of slave teeth. Did that slave give up his teeth voluntarily? And I think that's Thomas Jefferson. I'm assuming that's Thomas Jefferson. Rape child slaves. And whoever this is, I forget, but the only good Indian is a dead Indian. And then Abraham Lincoln, largest mass hanging, 38 Dakotas. So these are the people that people are waking up to. These are truly despicable people. The founding fathers are truly some of the most disgusting people to ever exist. But this is the type of thing that they're talking about that is American pride is declining because of things like this, social media, and people. I guess life is good, America's free, and everything's great, and then all they do is look at social media. Oh, my mind has changed. That's it. Similar to what they're saying about Russiagate. It just takes a couple of pay for advertisement, and now you can change your mind. That's how stupid they think we are. Actually, let me go back to that because there was another thing I wanted to show. Besides this one, I had another one that I wanted to show here, and then we'll get back to the video because I do want to get to the TikTok part. This is for other segments, but oh, this video is pretty funny. Look what this young lady does right here. I'll loop it. She's basically slapping all the forefathers. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I love this video. But yeah, this is another thing that is triggering the outnumbered crowd. Love that video. She's slapping all the forefathers. Oh, that's good. Where was I with that? Let's go back. Because I wanted to show you. Oop. I guess. Am I already here? Oh, I'm already here. My bad. The other thing I wanted to show you, and we'll get to the Emma Vigland video in just a moment here. Is it this one? This is just showing another take on them. Yeah, and that was Thomas Jefferson. Bunch of other suckers. And then, you know, terrorists, rapists, slave master, colonializers, or colonialists. So another meme that would drive them crazy at outnumbered. And then there's one last one. This one. So this is the founding of the country. We want to act like, oh, we just left the crazy British, the repressive British, but have nothing to say how it was founded on genocide and enslavement. That's in the DNA of the United States. And this shows native land stolen. Look at 1776. Then a few years after slavery was abolished in the Constitution. Look how much. Doesn't this look similar, or isn't it similar to the map you see of Palestine and how Israel has taken over time more and more of the territory? Very, very similar. Let's now go back to the video. I wanted to show those two, insert those two. I'm going to fast forward a little bit of this video to the part of this where they're talking about a particular TikTok user. I guess she goes viral, so they bring her up. Where is it at? It's towards the end here. Wait a minute here. Did I skip it? Skip it? No. Where's that TikTok? Oh, I guess it wasn't that far back. Bear with me, guys. Okay, here it goes right here. This TikTok user here. Okay, where was I at? Okay, yeah, this is a TikTok user segment. And I think this is probably the tweet that they were talking about, or that kind of facilitated this conversation that they're having. So let's listen, and they're going to bring up this TikToker and specifically what she talks about.
Taking place throughout Independence Day. But the liberal media is claiming that Americans are struggling to find reasons to celebrate. It's so awful. A new headline from the New York Times, of course, don't you know, reads, "No sparklers for these folks." Quote, "Whether because of crowds, politics, or a loss of patriotism, some Americans are conflicted about celebrating the 4th of July. The Times outlines a New York woman's political qualms with celebrating the holiday. She told the outlet, quote, "Last summer, Roe versus Wade was overturned, and that really made me less inclined to celebrate." The article goes on to say that even if she wanted to celebrate, she would worry about the message it sent. Oh, brother. The Times also cites an Arkansas woman who took issue with fireworks, telling the Times, quote, "It's hard to tell the difference between guns and fireworks. And here there is always something on the news about a shooting or something, so it makes me nervous. They are also bad for the environment. They release a lot of toxic chemicals." And that Arkansas woman, whose name is Malaya Tapp, posted this on TikTok. Take a look.
4th of July is coming up, and as a controversial holiday, I would just like to remind everyone that it is okay to not celebrate or to take advantage of the festivities and use it to celebrate something else. I will probably go to a barbecue because those tend to be hosted by Black family or friends. And I see that as a time to come together and celebrate the fact that we are also still here despite America trying to get rid of us when they were trying to gain their independence.
Well, the New York Times elevated that confused young woman. It is not a controversial holiday. It just isn't. Even if the New York Times says so, that is untrue. But this goes into, there's 2 points here, Joe. One is the nature of this being a push, what I would term a push story, is that it creates this narrative that is false. You know, you've got America is, you know, hundreds of millions of people. We love this holiday. We understand it. They choose, you know, Gen Zers, people from New York who are complaining about the heat of it. Some of this is post-pandemic, but this is about the media. You know, you look at this and a lot of people are talking about this, that, you know, the New York Times says that this is now controversial. What does this say to you?
This is how the cake is baked. If we're teaching a class on bias in journalism, activism in journalism, that piece is exactly how it works. So whoever the writer was for the New York Times here basically said, all right, I have a narrative that I want to go with, but I need people we're going to portray as regular.
How about the narrative is that I'm interviewing people or I'm talking to people or I'm visiting online and I can see this is what people are saying. This is what I see on 4th of July. Instead of talking about that, they want to pretend like everything in America can be going good. And then an op-ed comes out and that just changes people's mind, regardless that they think the country's great and everything's going right. That's the idea they're trying to convey to their audience. And I don't know who could be buying this, but we're going to move on to another topic. I think it's related. Actually, let me bring up this article just to kind of put a button on this topic, because there's actually an article about it, and it's on CNN, believe it or not. Jesus, how do you they've got all of this advertisement taking up the entire half of the page. Jesus, these people are terrible. Anyway, let me bring it up. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, so let's bring this article up. It kind of just talks about, and I think this is the article. This is not the New York Times article, but this is one of the articles maybe they're referring to. As you can see here, it says American patriotism hits a new low, and this is on CNN Politics. I'll put this into the description. All right, so if you want to go read this yourself, it is now in the description. Let's just read a little bit here, and let me make sure you can see this. We'll read just a little bit. Let's blow it up a little bit. I would say for the CNN Parrot, but those CNN Parrot, that is actually me. So let's read right here. On the eve of July 4th, our annual celebration of American independence and fireworks, pride as being an American has hit a record low in new Gallup polling. Fewer than 4 in 10, 38% of adults say they were extremely proud to be Americans, the lowest ever measured by Gallup, which has been asking the question since 2021. So we're talking about 22 years or so. The 38% of proud Americans is well below the average 55% since the question has been asked. In fact, prior to 2015, Gallup had never found those expressing extreme pride lower than 55%. So let's go back to 2015. What was going on in 2015? The election and campaign of two of the worst people we would want to see running for office, and that is Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And let's continue with the article here. The decline in extreme American pride is due in large part to marked declines among Republicans and independents. While Republicans are still the group most likely to express extreme pride in the country, that number is now down to 58, a steep drop from the 75% who said the same thing in 2019. So the drop in these numbers is more broad, can be laid at the feet of more often to the Republicans or GOP or conservatives. Their idea of this being patriotic has gone down the most. And independents, in the next sentence, among independents, just 34% say they are extremely proud of America today, compared to 41% who said the same thing in 2019. The number among Democrats actually rose marginally over the last 3 years from 22% to 26%. So that just goes through a couple of numbers I wanted to add for this particular segment. But now we're going to move on, and I think I want to cover the Emma Vigland video next. So we're going to go to the Emma Vigland video, but I'm going to put up some of your comments in just a second here. But Emma Vigland, dumbest in American politics. So let's get to this next segment, but let's see what you said about this one here. I'll throw up a couple of comments to see what everybody's talking about. Make sure you're hitting that like button and oops, scroll all the way down. MSB or mainstream media reminds me of Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange scene where the guy has his eyes pinned open. It was Martin Luther who abolished 150 public holidays. Interesting. Let's continue. Oops. Let's read this one. The patriotism from an imperialist neocolonialist empire is certainly very different from the patriotism from a country that has been subject to U.S. Western imperialism, colonialism. Absolutely. And Lenin talks about this. And a lot of MAGA communists want to use this patriotism, but they're not talking about patriotism of the imperialist power, which is in America. So if we're talking about patriotism for this country, we would be talking about patriotism for the indigenous people, not the people who committed genocide. And that's just a side note about that. I don't celebrate any holidays. Good for you. I'm sure you save a lot of money. 38% is extremely high. I thought the same thing. Because I would put that at, it should be a lot lower in my opinion. This is about Americans realizing that out of all former settler colonies of the UK, the United States has a lower standard of living than Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So yeah, let's celebrate no health care. Good point, Chip. And now a super chat. I think I got one super chat. Oh no, another new member. Vicky Blair. Welcome. Another brand new member, part of the art community, along with Justin B earlier, and radical leftist extremists, all brand new members today on 4th of July or July 4th. Now, I think I read enough comments. Let's go to the next story. And that next story, this isn't gonna be as long because we just got a video to play and then kind of comment on it. But let me bring up the video first before I share. I need to get it all prepped here. It is a short video, and I'll use the tweet that Nick sent out as the one. So let's bring this down and now go to the next media. And that's this here. And I forget her name on the right. I forget her name. But she says some crazy stuff too. So We're going to play this. And again, the topic for this segment is Emma Vigland, dumbest in American politics. And that's a name that Nick actually gave her, I remember. And I'm just going with it. But let's listen to big brain Emma Vigland and her counterpart, which I apologize, I forget her name.
What's up is that like the critique of corporate media, yes, you can apply it to Fox, to CNN, to MSNBC and say these are major corporations that are in they're doing news for profit, and that creates a perverse incentive set. But then there's the massive critique about Fox News, which is separate from the overall corporate media critique, which is that they're a literal propaganda outfit. And conflating MSNBC and Fox News is irresponsible because you can the criticism of Fox or the criticism of MSNBC is that they are a corporate entity and that maybe they work too closely with some of the Democratic operatives. Fox is on another level, and I hate the false equivalence that I see sometimes online about that.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Fox just lies constantly. So there's that. There's like truth, a little bit of truth.
Is this even serious? Or is this saying, hey, all these networks are bad, but we can't really go after MSNBC because we could possibly have contracts with them in the future? Is that what this is about? Because this is purely nonsense, what she's saying here. What they're saying here. Like Fox News is on a different level. They just outright lie. That's exactly what MSNBC and CNN does. You haven't watched their Ukraine coverage? Have you seen what they're saying about the counteroffensive? Did you see what they said about Russia? What are you talking about? But this is why RBN is so important. Without RBN, who would be saying this? Who would be countering this nonsense that she's saying if RBN was not around? This is what's dangerous. And I'll rewind it just for them to repeat a little bit more, and I'll let it play.
Media critique, which is that they're a literal propaganda outfit. And conflating MSNBC and Fox News is irresponsible because you can the criticism of Fox or the criticism of MSNBC is that they are a corporate entity, and that maybe
that the only criticism of MSNBC is that they're corporate, not that they lie, not that they propagandists. This is the first time I'm hearing this, because that's exactly the critique I hear of MSNBC in particular.
Maybe they, work too closely with some of the Democratic operatives. Fox is on another level, and I hate the false equivalence that I see sometimes online about that.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Fox just lies constantly. So there's that. There's like truth, a little bit of truth, and just all lie, all propaganda.
Some of the speculation on Russiagate on Maddow every night was ridiculous. It was like a completely dartboard.
That's not lying.
Charlie Day meme, ridiculous levels, and I think we've conceded that point. But the lying I think she convinced herself of a lot of crazy shit. But the lying on Fox News is systemic.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said,
they're really trying here. They're really reaching here. This is a stretch. This is such a stretch. And you can see it even in their voices, because it feels like Emma's off the cuff and she's saying things that doesn't align necessarily with what she was just saying a few seconds ago. You just said Fox News do lying, they straight up lie, and MSNBC, they're too close to the Democratic Party. That's all. The very next sentence, you talk about how Rachel Maddow was spilling lies about Russiagate. The very next sentence. And I think somebody said the woman to the right, her name is Francesca. I think I'm saying it right. So you can see it in Francesca's face. I'm going to rewind it. You'll see when she starts to bring up the Russiagate, she doesn't know what type of expression, because maybe she doesn't know where Emma's going to go with this, because it's like, wow, we just said that they straight up lie, and now you're bringing up a point of MSNBC lying. Wait a minute, Emma, what's going on with this segment? I thought we were MSNBC good, Fox bad. Now I'm not sure, but watch her face when Emma begins to talk again.
There's truth, a little bit of truth, and just all lie, all
like,
propaganda. All the
What
time.
some of the speculation on Russiagate on Maddow every night was ridiculous. It was like a completely dartboard Charlie Day meme, ridiculous levels. And I think we've conceded that point. But the lying, I think she convinced herself of a lot of crazy shit. But the lying on Fox News is systemic.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, that Russia stuff was riveting and not wrong in a lot of those, like in a lot of.
Russiagate was riveting. Did you hear what I said? Russiagate was riveting. And it wasn't all lies. This is what they're telling themselves. These are the people pre-RBN who were the voices that any person left-leaning had to listen to. These people. And we wonder why the U.S. left is in such a terrible position. Clown politics. This is clown politics here. Back and then let it
A meme, ridiculous levels. And I think we've conceded that point. But the lying, I think she convinced herself of a lot of crazy shit. But the lying on Fox News is systemic.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, that Russia stuff was riveting and not wrong in a lot of those, like in a lot of cases.
Not wrong in a lot of pieces. I wish I had the rest of that for her to complete her sentence because it's astonishing. Let me update this here. I do have a couple of tweets. Of course, Nick went in on her. So I do want to bring up these tweets. Give you a new target for likes. We've hit our last target of 150. Thank you. We're at 172. New target 225. Now let's listen. I'm sorry. Now let me go. Let me see if this is a member here. It's not a member, but it is one of our emails. So now let me bring up a couple of tweets. And this is Nick, and this is I credit him as being the person who I named this.
What's up is that like
after.
the critique of corporate media. Yes, you can apply it to Fox, to CNN.
Easily the dumbest people in political discourse right now, and I wholeheartedly agree with Nick. But then, so Nick replies to her, and here goes what the main account, RBN account, tweeted out. Wow, these are the people who were the only voices for left discussion for years. No wonder the U.S. left is in this condition. Underdeveloped, shallow, gleefully stupid, and spineless. I think those are very accurate. You can come in. I think those are very accurate descriptions because isn't the U.S. left underdeveloped? Isn't the U.S. left shallow? Isn't the U.S. left gleefully stupid? Have you seen Sam Cedar? Gleefully stupid. And isn't the U.S. left spineless? And then it ends by saying, thank God for RBN. But none of us, our life's goal was to be podcasters and work in the community. Wasn't that? We just fell into this because we saw so much bad stuff going on. And here is another thing Nick tweets out here. The quality analysis coming from the majority report. Joe Biden has expanded public drilling, approved the Willow Project, and expanding the military-industrial complex, the world's largest polluter. But this is what Emma Vigeland said at the time. He's not where he needs to be, I get it, but climate change alone should be enough of a reason to vote Biden over Trump. This tweet has not aged well for young Miss Emma Vigeland because, as Nick mentioned, the Willow Project and any increase in the military budget, understand, means an increase in pollution. the largest polluter. So you can't be pro-Ukrainian and pro-war, Marianne Williamson's Emma Vigeland, and then be like, I'm for climate change because you're for the number one polluter and you're for climate change? What sense does that make? There might be one more that Nick has. Let's see if he has one more tweet that I may want to cover. Oh, yeah, here's another one. Here is Emma praising Andrew Cuomo, who cut Medicaid during the pandemic and had a nursing home scandal that killed seniors. Emma Vigland is the queen of bad takes. And understand this. This tweet she sent out was after we found out about the nursing home stuff. After, okay? Emma Vigland again. There's no denying it. Andrew Cuomo has done a very good job, especially rhetorically, in this crisis. The way he's communicating is informative and politically savvy. It just plays. He demolished Trump as the nominee if DNC leadership is willing to do the gutsy thing. So she's saying it's gutsy for the Democratic Party to replace Joe Biden with a worse Joe Biden, Andrew Cuomo. This is Emma Vigland. And this is the reason why we say Emma Vigland is the dumbest person in American politics by far. And I'll add the part of right now. So now let's go to the next segment. I think I'm moving through these segments fairly quickly, but let's go to the next segment. And I want to do the broad appeal later. American. Oh, let's do this. Slate attacks Jill Stein and Cornel West for their campaigns. And let me put up a title for you. So Slate smears Dr. Stein and Dr. West. That's easy. Easy enough. And let's put that on the screen here. Let's put up a different one there. All right, so we're going to start the next segment. Actually, maybe I should put up some of your comments on this segment with Emma Vigland. So there is a lot. So I guess this is a triggering topic. Let's see what everybody's saying here. Where says Emma has that library look, but is politically illiterate. I like that. Clown faces. They all push to sustain the two-party duopoly system as well, right? So all that. Oh, if it was a viable third party, I would be down. That was all virtue signaling. That's them virtue signaling to the most radical people that are left, who want to go third party, but is still sort of in community with these pseudo left people like Emma Vigland. And they wanted to sort of, hey, no, I'm down for third party too, but right now it's not viable. Come on. That has completely been unmasked. They're not down for third parties whatsoever. And that's been completely unmasked with the candidacy of Cornel West. Cuomo ain't worse than Biden. More like Andrew Grape. Oh, I don't get that one. Maybe you can fill me in. Joe Biden blew up Nord Stream. Not exactly good for the climate. That's another one I forgot. They all voted for Biden. I did not. Trump wouldn't go to war with Iran. That's why they hate him so much. If Emma cared so much about the planet, why she support arms industry staying profitable? And that's the point I think that all of you or a lot of you are making a point that we also are making and have made. And now we can move to the next topic. And the next topic is Slate smears Dr. Stein and Dr. West. And how I found out about it was this tweet from Jill Stein, and I will retweet it now. And DNC attack dogs apparently think the same old voter shaming and false smears will distract from the devastation the ruling parties have brought to our lives. our future, and the planet. So I'm going to bring this up here and put it in our box here for us to see. And we'll read a little bit of this. Slate. Why is America's Green Party like this? And let me blow this up just so people who are watching on their phone, they'll be able to see this a lot better. So let's dive into this article, the smear job they're doing, Slate is doing. Am I in the right one? Hang on a second, everybody. Yeah. Okay, so let's take this one down. I had this up multiple times. So let me make sure I have the right one up. I do. All right, let's read. Jill Stein is running Cornel West's campaign. Didn't they learn anything in 2016? And you see the writer, this was just written today. And that's Jill Stein and Cornel West on a turtle, a green turtle. Let's see what this is figuratively supposed to be. This is part of Too Bad, a series exploring America's lackluster enthusiasm for the 2024 election and the problem of the third-party candidate. A recent Economist YouGov poll found that 44% of American adults would vote for a third party or independent candidate. A separate NBC News poll showed that more Democrats than Republicans are open to third-party voting in 2024. It's not outlandish then to think that some of them will peel off to support famed intellectual Cornel West, who is seeking the Green Party's nomination. The longtime professor continues to hold plenty of respect in professional and progressive circles. As a bombastic and righteous political scholar, as a committed socialist, as a former Bernie Sanders campaign surrogate, Sanders has already endorsed President Joe Biden's re-election campaign. The worry from mainstream Democrats, of course, is that this celebrity will be enough to eat into the left liberal voting share and resultingly sweep Republicans back into power. If Cornel West is aware of this concern, he is certainly unafraid of the optics. His 2024 campaign has already recruited Dr. Jill Stein, the commonly blamed spoiler of the 2016 election, as its manager. She'll also be in charge of West fundraising and communication for the time being, according to Bloomberg. Let's continue. I won't comment here. The Green Party may seem like an odd choice for West. Its weakened, maligned political presence in 2022 comes thanks to bad press from two pivotal elections, systematic pushback from Democrats, financial support from Republicans and Russians. You see how they did that? A minimal amount of overall electoral success, and a slate of fringy candidates. Let's rumble. I'll turn it off. This is disgusting. That it will end up in this state wasn't inevitable. That it would end up in this state wasn't inevitable. The Green New Deal, yes, it was originally a Green Party thing, has paved the policy road to transformative global climate legislation. Green coalitions have seriously political power in Europe, and the United States' two major party leaders are historically unpopular. Now, this whole thing is a lot of just lies and propaganda in here, but let's talk about this. The Green Party's Green New Deal and the watered down version of it, promoted by AOC and some progressive Democrats, isn't the same Green New Deal. It's severely watered down. And then to say this, that this Green New Deal has paved the policy road to transformative climate legislation is a fucking joke. Because the Inflation Reduction Act, they tout these things for climate, but they don't talk about the permits, the land that's going to be the people going to be able to extract oil from. That's also permitted in the same bill. So it's sort of like your boat is sinking. Your boat is taking water. It's two of you in the boat. One is taking water from the ocean, putting it into the boat to help the boat sink, and the other is taking water out of the boat and putting it back into the ocean. That's what the IRA does. So it's not any sort of transformative policy legislation. That's absurd. And then to bring up green coalitions in Europe have political powers, the same green coalitions that's for Ukraine war? Is that what you're talking about? Like, we've done many segments on this. So let's continue. Where was I? I already read that part. Especially in the light of anti-Biden fury from young voters who feel the president has reneged on his environmental promises, the lefty Greens ought to be in better straits these days. So how did they end up here? And what is West hoping to accomplish with his run anyway? Just like with all of these articles, they want to bring up how Jill Stein extracted votes from Hillary Clinton without talking about Gary Johnson extracting 3 times the votes from Donald Trump. And the other thing they miss is that they're thinking that anybody who would vote for Jill Stein would turn around and vote for a Democrat. Absurd. I think I'm going to leave it there so that I can get to some other articles here. But I do want to read. There's one last part they're going to bring up. Dr. Cornel West. All of this is them talking about the Greens, and they're trying to say how the party is not this and that. But I want to get to this part here. Here it goes right here. Apparently, the party is hoping that 2024 could be different. In his post-announcement media rounds, Cornel West has made clear that he thinks that both parties now stand in the way of coming to terms with the plight of the poor and working people. End quote. He also made it clear that he hates both Biden for his hypocrisy and militarism and Trump for his lies and gangster activity, and that he's fundamentally committed to going to the end of the cycle. And he's just reaching out to disappointed Dems. He's also trying former Trump voters and working class Americans in all regions. West originally announced his run as a People's Party, a scandal-ridden group formed in 2017 by disaffected Sanders supporters that has a ballot presence only in Florida, before vying for the Green nomination at the urging of Chris Hedges. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it was Stein's suggestion, as she told me. West now has to square off against 7 rivals, including U.S. Green Party founder Randy Toller, for the official nomination. Cornel is not a natural fit for the Greens, though, as Joan Walsh wrote in The Nation. This is the same article, by the way, that says something like Cornel West should not be running for president or something like that. But here's the quote from The Nation. I loved everything about West until he supported spoiler Ralph Nader against then Vice President Al Gore in 2020, an act for which he never apologized. It's a pattern. He attacked Barack Obama after 2008 and supported Stein in 2016, though he did support Biden against Trump in 2020. The Green affiliation may only heighten critiques West has already faced for his chumminess with vaccine and COVID skeptic podcasters like Russell Brand and Jimmy Dore. His praise for bits of DeSantis' educational policy outside of don't say gay and stop woke, and his prior clashes with prominent black figures like Obama and Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'll end there as far as this article. But if you would like to go read this article, let me put it in the description box here. And my last words on this article, I mean, it's just filled with a lot of just nonsense and lies, mistruths, omissions of facts. But we have to talk about these articles so that we can combat them. That's what we have to do. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring this up. But this is just another run-of-the-mill article trying to smear, trying to discredit the Green Party, Jill Stein, and Dr. Cornel West. This only is going to work for the vote blue no matter who people. The people who are buying that Jill Stein somehow stole the election from Hillary Clinton, the only people who's buying that are the vote blue no matter who, aka the cowbell left. You're not getting anybody new with this argument anymore. And I'll leave it there. Let's get to the next topic here. Let me go back. And now we'll get to this next topic, which is, I think I'm going to go with the no labels. Yeah, because it kind of goes into the RFK. So there's going to be some overlap with no labels and third parties versus the RFK part, because there is some overlap here. So, but we're going to start with the no labels, because no labels 2024 run. And because what liberal media, what liberal outlets like the Lincoln Project is now saying, or has been saying, is that this no labels project, this is really just a GOP-backed project meant to siphon votes from Joe Biden so that Trump can win. That's their argument. So let's dive into that argument. This is Rob Wilson, but I want to start somewhere else here. Wait, do I have this is the Lincoln? Oh, I have video too for this. That's what it is. I'm thinking, wait, don't I have video for this? And where do I have that video? Where do I have that video? Hang on a second here. Let's start with a couple of headlines though. This is what the Lincoln Project tweeted out. And they're quoting Rick Wilson here. Rick Wilson was one of the maggots that formed the Lincoln Project. If you don't know who Rick Wilson is, oops, let's take this off here. Put this one on. No labels, 2024 run. Let me have that scroll down at the bottom. So we'll start here with this tweet. Quote, look, ordinarily, I wouldn't give a rat's ass about no labels and Nancy Jacobson and Mark Penn. I wouldn't spend 15 seconds of my day thinking about it. But Donald Trump and Joe Biden are going to be in a neck and neck race. End quote. And this is from Rick Wilson. And this is part of an article. We'll get to it in a second. Lincoln Project's Rick Wilson slams no label for calling Donald Trump. I'll get to that in a second. But I do want to do a couple of headlines first. This one here from the American Bridge 21st Century. I believe this is a donor because I remember seeing them on Open Secrets as donations. Here's what we know. No labels is a shameful Republican plot to steal votes from Joe Biden because they know they can't win on their own. And that is what I want to bring up, this first article here, and then we'll go to the video. Case Study QB has a couple of videos that talks about mainstream media is talking about no labels, and that's they fear no labels a lot. They really do fear no labels because it's corporate donors, it's corporate people who know this game that's behind this. So this one, we'll read this headline here. The No Labels campaign to re-elect Trump. All these pop up. So let's read. Watch out, America. Another harebrained attempt to put a third-party candidate on the presidential ballot is gaining steam. A scheme that risks putting Donald back into the Oval Office. And let me stop here, because this idea, that everybody's on the same team against Trump getting in office, it's always framed that way. And I'm not on your team for getting, I'm on the team for not getting Trump or Joe Biden into the Oval Office. That's the team I'm on. But it's assuming facts and evidence. It's assuming a fact that's not there. There's like when they interviewed Cornel West, are you concerned that you may extract votes from Joe Biden to put down? No, because it's the same. It doesn't matter who's in there. But it's this idea that Donald Trump is the monster that everybody does not want in the White House. And that's just simply not true. It's Joe Biden and Donald Trump. For me, they're equally terrible. For me. But let's read some of this article and continue. Watch out, America. Another harebrained attempt to put a third-party candidate on the presidential ballot is gaining steam. It's gaining steam. A scheme that risks putting Donald Trump back into the Oval Office. This one comes to us from the group No Labels, and it's potent campaign fuel, and that's why they're saying that, because they can get, let me just finish. Campaign fuel by truckloads of dark money, much of it from conservative donors, and most of it hidden from public view. You mean like what the Democrats do in the primaries? Dark money, because they're the king of dark money, the Democrats. We've covered this. This is a dangerous stunt, and we've seen the damage it can do. Here goes Jill Stein. This is a different article, not even talking about Jill Stein, but they bring her up. Jill Stein of the Green Party got just 1% of the vote in 2016, but it was enough to tip the election in favor of Donald Trump. Forget the fact that Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate. Forget the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't go to some of these states. Forget all of that. Forget the fact that Gary Johnson had a 3 times the amount of votes than Dr. Jill Stein. Forget all of that. It was Dr. Jill Stein's fault. The numbers don't lie. Had Stein supporters voted Democrat, here's the part they're stating as a fact. Had Jill Stein supporters voted Democrat, Hillary Clinton would have won Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, enough to make her the first woman president in American history, which she should not be because she's terrible, awful, and a warmonger. Ralph Nader did the same favor for George W. Bush in 2020. In Florida and in New Hampshire, his vote total was enough to knock Al Gore from first place. Both he and Stein were warned, and both ignored the speed bumps and proceeded with their egotistical exercise that did such damage to the country. Now, No Labels is reading from the same sheet of music. Unlike Stein and Nader, they are presenting themselves as centrists. They are raising tons of money, and they have already secured ballot spots in Alaska, Arizona, that's going to be a battleground state. Colorado, that may be a battleground state. Oregon, Florida, that will be a battleground state. Nevada, possibly, and possibly North Carolina to a lesser degree. And this is why they're afraid. Now, I want to now go to the videos. So let's go back. If we have to come back to this article, we will. But now I want to go to some of the videos of this No Labels. So where did I have that at? No Labels and third parties. Hang on, everybody. No Labels. I guess I never did. Okay, so let's just go to case study. Now, watch how I type in case study and watch how his name doesn't come up. See that? He's completely shadow banned. Even when you search him, he doesn't come up. You have to search him this way. Just completely absurd, in my opinion. But let's go to the video. no labels video, and we may do a little bit of scrolling here to get to this no labels video. We're going to come back to this video for our last segment when we talk about RFK Jr. This is one of the main videos we're going to be covering, and this one too. But let's go to no labels, and I believe it's. Hang on a second here. I'm jogging my memory. This video actually may be on here. Wow. I'm starting to remember. It might be actually on CNN. So let me look at this clip that I have here, and then we shall see if this is it or not before I share it. So I'm not sharing quite yet because I need to make sure this is. Oh, hang on a second here. Oh, okay. Okay. This is it. So let me get to the segment here. Hang on a second here. What I'm trying to do is skip over the Ron DeSantis stuff. They do talk about Ron DeSantis, but it's not part of the segment. So I may have to skip this. Yeah, I may have to skip this because it's too long, and I don't want to play that entire thing. So let's just continue with locating the no limits, no labels on Case Study QB page, and here it goes right here. So let's listen to this now. The caption is "No labels, third party versus blue vote blue no matter who." So let's listen. This is just one of them. I think it's two clips we're going to play. This is the first. This is MSNBC.
Well, I think an independent movement or an independent candidate would have real challenges. That said, I think No Labels is doing the country a service by keeping this option open in the event we have another Trump-Biden race. And I believe that because most voters on the Democratic side would prefer someone other than Joe Biden. And a hell of a lot of Republicans like myself and Joe, and I think you, Michael, would prefer someone other than Donald Trump. And I think the marketplace of ideas demands that there be an alternative. Now, if the Republicans nominate someone other than Donald Trump, say like Tim Scott, then this whole no labels movement goes away. But independents, you're right, don't have a great track record. But so many people are disaffiliating from the major political parties that there may be an opportunity for an independent to actually make a difference in this race. I'm not saying they can win, but I think we're in a different time right now. We saw what happened in France with Macron. He came up the middle and defied the conventional wisdom. It worked there. I'm not saying it'll work here.
What?
Let's have that option on the table.
So what do you make of Charlie's argument and the case for no labels? There's been a lot of suspicion about the money and sort of the politics, and that's kind of inside Washington stuff. But you're a guy with your finger on the pulse across the country. How does this set up, do you think, in light of what you see out there?
Donald Trump and Trumpism right now is the greatest single threat to our democracy. They must be defeated. Anything, Michael, that takes away from defeating Trump and Trumpism in 2024 is wrong. No labels is wrong. A third party is wrong. A fourth party is wrong. Anybody else running. Trump needs to be defeated. Terrible. The only way that gets done in 2024 is if all of us, again, line up behind Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is. I have zero patience, Michael, for all of these ego-driven, money-driven people like No Labels who want to put their faces and their candidates out here. They do not understand the unique threat our democracy is under right now.
And that's the selling point of this is that Trump is some sort of unique threat. And again, that's the selling point. So let me get to another no labels, which is right here. Okay, this is a good one. So let's listen to this one. No labels talk, this is
about
MSNBC
third-party candidates. Do you think that's an off-ramp for somebody like RFK Jr. if he knows that there's a strong, successful Biden first-term administration that he's had? He's got a good record to run on of wins, he being Joe Biden. Is that maybe where somebody like RFK Jr. goes?
I think that's the plan. And I mean, you're seeing and no labels still is trying to, is making noise that they are trying to get a candidate too. So I do think there are a lot of people who just want Biden not to get reelected because I think they know that Biden will have to address this Supreme Court problem and that maybe Biden will support the IRS and raise taxes. And I think a lot of these wealthy conservatives, taxes are their number one issue, and they don't really care about the collateral damage when it comes to rights and what happens to LGBTQ people and what happens to women and what happens. So I do think ultimately this is just a very craven ploy.
But we saw a lot of that happen though, because in 2016, there were a lot of people that justified their vote for Trump by saying, but look at my 401k. Right. It was my 401k argument that a lot of people that otherwise would have voted for Trump were saying, I'll support him. But now there are the infringement of individual rights that are held by not only Democrats, but by Republicans and independents as well. Is there an independent lane that Biden can pick up with a message that you think is strong enough to be able to deliver?
I mean, it's his for the taking, right? I mean, think about like all of these Supreme Court decisions, all of these ways in which people were infringed. I mean, Supreme Court is making federal policy, right? I mean, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Outside of their lane, frankly.
Right, way outside of their lane. And so I do think there's a real opportunity here for the Biden administration. Look, Biden has been underestimated at every point, right? At every point, from the Democratic primary in 2020 to now, he has been underestimated. So I wouldn't count him out. He's got smart people around him helping him, sort of make the right choices.
I'm definitely not counting him out. In the latest NBC News national poll, Biden was ahead by Donald Trump by at least 4 points, which mirrors what happened back in 2020. Molly John-Pass, my friend, thank you so much for being here. It's always been good to see you.
Yeah, right. All right, so this is where we're going to start getting to some overlap. As like you said, like you saw there, they talk a little bit about RFK. So we're going to add into this segment RFK as we're talking about no labels and sort of RFK at the same time. But let's go to RFK broad appeal. Let's go to this first video. This is Ice Cube and Joe Rogan talking about RFK.
There, turn it around.
Yeah. I don't put a lot on the president. I don't put a lot on the president.
Well,
for sure.
I wonder what would happen if Robert Kennedy Jr. got in there. Very interested to see what happens with that guy.
Yeah, he seemed like a guy who at least is down to deep dive.
Yeah,
and talk real and really try to dissect what's really going on instead of just going with the herd, which would be easy for him to do. Like go with the herd. By him going this route, it's like he's on a more noble route, and we just check him out and see how he navigates some of this stuff.
Well, he's definitely on a more noble route, and it's definitely not something he planned to do initially. I mean, he was an environmental attorney. Yeah. He was the guy that cleaned up the Hudson River.
I spent my career working for a blue-collar coalition of commercial and recreational fishermen. And over the next couple of decades, we brought over 500 successful legal actions against Hudson River polluters.
They would go after these corporations that were dumping toxic waste, and that was his thing. It was like mercury in the water, and trying to hold the corporations accountable. And then these women started showing up every time he would give these speeches, and they said, "We want you to look into mercury in vaccines."
Yeah.
And so this is 18 years ago. And so for 18 years, this guy's been saying all this stuff about environmental concerns. And that was what his whole thing was. And then it wasn't until COVID came along. And then he wrote that book, The Real Anthony Fauci, detailing, what it is that these people are actually doing and how they are engineering these viruses. And they give grants, and it's dangerous gain of function research. And then they give you one medication that you have to take, and everybody gets on board with it. And they're making billions of dollars.
Yes.
And no one's talking about what he's saying. And he's saying it in a well-informed way, and he's expressing it to people like this is the playbook they always use, and they just used it on everybody.
Look, he's dealing with the same people we probably all are dealing with. And it's really time for us to really come up with a plan on how we're gonna deal with this, because it's just gonna continue to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not cool.
No, it's not. And I'm hoping people wake up enough to at least slow it down.
So I think, yeah, RFK put that out. He clipped it from the Joe Rogan show. But now let's get into let me make sure I click the right one here. Yeah, this one right here is the one that kind of triggered me. But let's watch the entire thing. There's 5 parts. That's how long it was. So 5 parts, and shout out to Case Study QB for
they're going to have the right to compel unwanted medical interventions on us. The Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews.
For years, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has made a name for himself as a conspiracy theorist. Of course, he is the son of former Senator and Attorney General Robert Kennedy, who himself ran for president in 1968. As a member of one of America's most well-known political families, Kennedy is now running against President Biden for the Democratic nomination. And so it is perhaps not surprising that Kennedy is polling fairly strongly for a challenger to an incumbent president at 17% among Democrats. What might surprise you is that his favorability rating is 40% among Republican voters, compared to 25% for Democrats and 31% for independents. There are a lot of reasons for this.
I'm going to bring that poll back up. So you have broad appeal. That's now a problem. Having broad appeal. Now, it's my opinion that there's a lot of Republicans that may vote for him, or conservative-leaning people that support him because of the COVID stuff. Literally. There's people that will live and die with RFK simply because of the COVID stuff. Now, our take on RFK. He's a disgusting Zionist. I don't give a fuck about him. But we have to be honest and talk about, he does have appeal, and there's certain reasons he have appeal. It's the vaccine stuff. It's the not believe in the government stuff. It's the don't trust these institutions stuff. It's the did I say COVID stuff if I didn't say it, and Ukraine stuff. So that's why I think he has appeal from Republicans, because Republicans currently right now, a lot of them are not for this Ukraine war. And then the COVID stuff that is right in his back pocket. And then how he wrote the book about Dr. Fauci. So that's why he has appeal. There's not anything in his particular in his sort of policies that gives him any sort of particular appeal. But those are the things that actually could, quite frankly, that bring anybody to this guy's, because his stance on Ukraine, his stance on the establishment and these institutions, and then COVID. Those are kind of the 3 buckets that bring in the most people to him. And let's continue with the segment.
Independence. There are a lot of reasons for this. Part of it is because Kennedy is a longtime anti-vax activist who's made conspiracy theories around COVID vaccines and virtually all other vaccines a centerpiece of his campaign. And he is backed by far-right figures like Steve Bannon. He also wins praise from Donald Trump, who would be running against Kennedy in the highly unlikely event that he were to win the Democratic nomination. And just like the ex-president, Kennedy likes to portray himself as anti-big government, anti-establishment, an outsider. As Rebecca Traister points out in New York Magazine, Kennedy's core identity is, quote, as an insider, a member of the family that this country was taught to love above all others and to pity in their many public tragedies.
So this is the New Yorker's article, RFK's inside job, how a conspiracy spewing literal Kennedy posing as a populist outsider jolted the Democratic Party. I mean, that line is just filled with just nonsense. But let's continue to the second one here, the second clip here.
At large for New York Magazine. Rebecca, you write about the, quote, horseshoe coalition.
So this is the writer of this article in the New Yorker. This is the propagandist here. So let's listen.
Rebecca Tracer joins me now. She is a writer at large for New York Magazine. Rebecca, you write about the, quote, horseshoe coalition around Kennedy's campaign, anti-vaxxers who shop at Whole Foods, far-right authoritarians. How is this group sort of coalesced around him?
Well, it's coalesced. He's very proud of it, and he himself refers to it as a horseshoe coalition. He's very proud of pulling from both the left and the right.
Why wouldn't he be?
The way that they're coalescing around him is in his sort of, what he's spreading is distrust of institutions, distrust of elections, distrust of vaccines, distrust of medical interventions, distrust of the Democratic Party, distrust of government.
Where is he wrong in any of that? Distrust of these institutions, distrust of the government, distrust of the Democratic Party. Where is he wrong in this list of distrust that you're mentioning? But let's listen to her continue.
Distrust of the Democratic Party, distrust of government. And that is pulling both some self-described leftists who are critical of Joe Biden.
These words that they're picking is not just happenstance. When she says self-described, that's to say, I'm not going to even call these people real left. They call themselves left. So that's how I'm going to describe them, because you couldn't possibly be left and not like Joe Biden.
And it's pulling quite a few conservatives. It's also pulling a lot of support, actually, and interest, whether it's official support or not, from a kind of Silicon Valley tech bro culture. He has done Twitter Spaces conversations and has also, Jack Dorsey, the Twitter founder, has said that he is supporting Kennedy's campaign. He has a lot of funders coming from Silicon Valley. And so that's another element that's sort of pulling it all together. Actually, all these factions have very little in common ideologically when it comes to things like, economic policy and those kinds of things. It really is this sort of sense of they're responding to his projected distrust of all kinds of institutions, which I think is part of why the power that he has is worth paying attention to and is quite dangerous.
I don't know if I said the New York Magazine, but that's the New Yorker. If I said the New York Magazine, that's a misspoke. It's the New Yorker Magazine. All right, so let's go to the next clip. Like I said, there's 5. If I didn't mention that, I'm telling you now, there's 5. So let's go to number 3. And this is because of the limits on, if you're not verified on here, you have a 2-minute limit, 2.5-minute limit. So I'm going to bring this back up.
Of our post-pandemic.
As you can see there, wait. No, I said it right the first time. The New York Magazine, not the New Yorker. My bad. And I'm going to find the article just so, because I keep mistakenly. So the New York Magazine, RFK's inside job. So let's listen.
Right, you write, that's not to say Kennedy's campaign is a joke. He is both an addled conspiracy theorist and an undeniable manifestation of our post-pandemic politics. Talk to me about that first part, saying that this campaign is not a joke, is something actually to pay attention to. What is it telling us?
So I think it's really important. He gets a lot of press for, his anti-vax views. His critics would be very angry at me for saying anti-vax, or his supporters would say that he's for vaccine safety, not against vaccings. But in fact, beyond his criticism of vaccines, and in 2006, he wrote an article in Rolling Stone claiming that the 2004 election had been stolen in Ohio thanks to Diebold machines. That article was disproven. Lots of other investigations and journalism suggested that that was not the case. It was.
He just says it's disproven. without telling us any evidence of that. Just it's disproven.
It's a very seductive argument, but his distrust in election results has persisted. He still talks about how the electoral systems are rigged.
Yes.
And in fact, he was equivocal in an interview with the Washington Post when they asked, do you think that Joe Biden won the election? He said, I don't know. I think Joe Biden won. Okay, this is really important to focus on
because this is the line of attack that we can go in and tie this to January 6th. This is the line of attack we can tie to election deniers. This is why this is important to her and to the liberal media. They have to find something that they can gravitate to, connect them to Trump, right-wing conservatism, January 6th, election denier, because the anti-vax stuff is not working. You can keep calling him anti-vax. It doesn't stop people from supporting him.
Because what he is projecting to the people who are listening to him and paying attention to him is this sense that we can't trust electoral results. Now, of course, first of all, even if he is unlikely to actually win the nomination, it is also possible that if there is a rogue early primary in New Hampshire where Joe Biden won't be on the ballot, Robert Kennedy
Jr. rogue primary.
Jr. might perform well there. That then will feed potentially the notion that
these people are definitely afraid. Listen, RFK Jr. is going to win New Hampshire and quite possibly Iowa. He's going to win New Hampshire and quite possibly Iowa. So they have to get ahead of the story with this nonsense. And you see how the ruling class, the Democratic establishment, whether red or blue, has people in all throughout media, all throughout press to write these freaking smear campaign stories to get people back in line with the ruling class narrative of red, blue only.
The elections aren't working. We're being cheated out of our choices. And we know that this kind of thinking has led to insurrectionist violence, right?
See, didn't I tell you they were gonna connect it? So his thinking of you won't say election, basically call him an election denier, that leads to violence. You see the tying of January 6th?
Questioning of the 2020 election and January 6th. There are really, really dangerous impulses that are at play here. And he's playing on a lot of those impulses. Well,
dangerous impulses. Let's continue. Number 4.
He's playing with or does. And speaking of playing, you also write either he has no idea what kind of fire he's playing with or does and is therefore an arsonist. You spent a lot of time with him. Your sort of sense if he understands the stakes beyond the winning, losing here of what it is he is putting out into the universe.
Well, it's an interesting question whether he understands the stakes. He's very driven. He speaks and behaves like a man who really thinks he might win the nomination. That is extremely unlikely. But he is speaking with a kind of authority and entitlement of somebody who believes he should be in this room, believes he should be a politician. He is also trying to have a lot of things both ways, right? So he's positioning himself as this outsider, this challenger to elite systems. In fact, the only reason that he has this kind of following and is polling it, you put up the number 17% in some polls, 9% in others, close to 20% in others, but he's polling surprisingly high because, of course, he is a product of all these institutions that he's claiming he is outside of and has been shunned by. He is a product of the Democratic Party, of one of the most famous family in Democratic Party politics. He is well connected to Hollywood through generations of his family. His uncle was the president. His father ran for president, was a senator, was attorney general. His other uncle was a senator, from 1962.
All of the things that she's saying that makes him an insider is through his family. What has he done? How has he been elected and been part of some sort of establishment? I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying the criteria she's making has nothing to do with his politics. It has to do. Oh, your father was the president, or your uncle was the president, the one that was assassinated when he was very little. So what did he do? He was networking at 2. Like, that's so ridiculous. Or what was the other family connection? Just the fact that he's a Kennedy, that he knows people in Hollywood. So now he's not this insider candidate. So it's like they're trying to call him. Don't think that he's some sort of outsider. He's actually an insider. They're saying it as if it's a smear, like if it's a slur. So if being an insider is a slur, what does that make Joe Biden?
Until his death. He comes from a family that is so politically connected, and in fact, also in political media. His friends have been people who have run magazines. His cousin, John Kennedy Jr., founded a magazine before his death. He's been published in magazines over decades, and in fact, cited those publications to me as his qualifications to be president. So he is, in fact, the only reason that he's there is because of the very institutions and his centrality to those institutions that he is telling everybody he's an outsider to and that he wants to stand in challenge to. So it's what he's doing, he's playing out of both sides of his mouth in a lot of ways.
So he's playing out of his mouth because people view him as an outsider. He's an outsider in the sense that he's never ran for office, I don't think. Yeah, he's never ran for office. Or if he has never ran for president, is what I should say. Because I don't know if he's run for office, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. But let's go to the I thought that was 4. Wasn't that 4 I just played? Hold on a second. Let me make sure that was.
Speaking of playing, you also write either he has no idea.
Okay, yeah, I did play 4. Let's go to 5 and finish out this this segment and stream. This is the last story. We're going to be getting out of here after this here. It's 3:30.
Add to that analysis, Rebecca, something that you touch upon in the piece, which is the idea that the ground was softened for him to do that by Donald Trump, by someone who was not an outsider.
See, they're trying so much to tie him to Donald Trump.
Someone who has already been president of the United States, who's still trying to position himself as an outsider.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the faux outsiderism. It's all connected to the sort of cancel culture. When somebody disagrees with you or says that, in fact, the science you're claiming is true is not true, that means you're being shunned, you're being censored, you're being canceled. There's this, the martyrdom of, in fact, often the very powerful white man, right? That is what Donald Trump has played on, a man with a very famous name like Kennedy's. There are a lot of Trumpian aspects to Kennedy. And, somebody who has been culturally central, who the media has covered for years before they got into politics, now positioning themselves as a brave outsider, charging the walls. And it's a lie, right? It's not actually factually true, as that's true of many of the conspiracy theories that he spews too. But people are very eager for that myth.
Rebecca Traister, you knew that I was at time. Thank you so much. It is all in her incredible piece, still to come.
And I have that piece up. I'm not going to, read all of it, but just for those that was I think put it in the description box. So if you want to go read the entire article, is this it? Wait a minute. I thought I brought it up. Did I not bring it up? 1 second, everybody. Oh, I never clicked on it. All right, so now I clicked on it. So let's now go to it here. So here's the article. It's New York Magazine, not the New Yorker. I misquoted earlier. So it's New York Magazine, and it was written a few days ago. RFK's inside job, how a conspiracy spewing literal Kennedy posing as a populist outsider jolted the Democratic Party. Like, this is the people who are voting for him already distrust people like you. You're literally not doing anything. These articles and these things that Joe, like on what's it, Morning Joe, the people who would support RFK doesn't watch you. The people who support Donald Trump doesn't watch you. So all this stuff you're putting that doesn't reach the people that you that if you're trying to lower their profile, lower their support. So she actually interviews him. Let me listen here.
The Kennedy Conspiracy, written by Rebecca Traister. While waiting for his plate of meatloaf, gravy, and an iceberg wedge at an empty restaurant in Concord, New Hampshire on the first day of June, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was gently explaining to me that nobody knows whether HIV is the sole cause of AIDS. They were doing phony, crooked studies to develop a cure that killed people, he said of the scientists laboring through the 1980s on the array of protease inhibitors and other antiretroviral drugs that would eventually stem.
We don't need to go through this. They're clearly bringing up this stuff about HIV to immediately discredit him in the beginning. This is the let me pull some of the most fringe or out there things they say and put those on Front Street so we can label him the loony conspiracy theorist. That's what they want to do to RFK. And I reiterate, not a supporter of RFK Jr., just calling it like I did, and they are definitely afraid of RFK Jr. And it's because he has the ability to actually pull in the support that the Democrats wish they can get. Those Republicans, the crossover Republicans, he can pull that. And he can make this primary very embarrassing, even if they don't have a debate. He can make this very embarrassing for Joe Biden. If he's not, if you don't consider what he's already done as embarrassing to Joe Biden. I think there might be not there. Hang on a second. If there's one more. I guess. Oh, okay. It is mixed up here. So let's listen to this, because this is them talking about an article in Politico. So let's listen to this. This is I'm gonna put it on the screen in just a second here. Actually, maybe I should end it there. Yeah, maybe I should end it there because I've come to the end. So I'll use it as an outro. I'm trying to get out of here at 3:30 my time, 6:30 Eastern. So we'll use this as an outro video instead. So let's listen to the 5 cover of the Politico article. Politico, not political, but Politico, the news organization.
So President Biden's racking up gas since announcing his re-election campaign.
God save the Queen, man. Ban on transgender Americans. Has Vladimir Putin been weakened by recent events? It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq.
Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here.
Yeah, he went somewhere. So the liberal media thinks maybe it's time for a tune-up. A new Politico piece arguing why Democrats should primary Biden. Quote, President Joe Biden needs a primary opponent who can prepare him for the 2024 general election. Somebody who can make him prove that he can still run the traps and beat whichever Republican he faces. Biden already has Democrat challengers like RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, but they've got some other names in mind, like Gavin Newsom, Beto O'Rourke, and Elizabeth Warren. As the piece puts it, quote, just as any heavyweight under the age of 75 with the pugilistic skills to put the current champion through a hammering 12 rounds. Tom, I know you're a big boxing fan. You know, you're big on that.
I'm a pugilist.
Tell me about this idea that maybe RFK Jr. isn't that person. Like, I don't understand that.
I mean, he is that person. They want to ignore him, though. They're pretending he's not a competitor. They're faking his numbers. I remember this last poll. They came out and he said he had 1.5% in New York. They fudged those numbers. He's got a lot of support out there, and he doesn't have just support on the left. He has a lot of freedom-loving people on the right who kind of like some of what he has to say as well. But I do think, I agree with this, the premise of the article, that it makes you stronger. I remember when I was a kid and Ted Kennedy ran against Jimmy Carter. and then Jimmy Carter defeated him, and then he becomes more powerful as a result. And then Ted Kennedy has to suck it up at the convention and say, I support the president. And so, you know, if you win and you win against a tough opponent, it's going to make you stronger. So in that way, I agree with that.
All right, let's go to number 2. They do get into some interesting conversation. Let's listen.
Kellyanne, we talk about polls. One of the things that always doesn't sit well with me is the Democrats love to point out that President Trump was basically, you know, there was no primary, no debates for him going into 2020. But what they always seem to overlook, and I've got one poll here I can quote that isn't quite a direct parallel, but President Trump never had under, I think, 94% approval rating from Republicans. President Biden struggles with that. 68% of registered voters have a major to moderate concern about Biden having the necessary mental and physical health to be president. So I don't think those are very easily compared.
That's even worse than an approval rating, because that is a direct indictment of his ability to do the job, to function mentally and physically. And that's a mainstream media poll that came from ABC last month. Joey, first of all, I don't think these are gaffes. I think this is Joe Biden. I think he mumbles, stumbles, and bumbles through the presidency. Everybody sees it.
Yeah.
And I think pieces like this, I would call them Operation Oust Kamala. I'd be very worried if I were her. Her approval ratings are at an all-time low. It is not racism and sexism. It is eyesight and hearing. We're paying attention to her. She inspires no confidence. She displays no competence. She doesn't seem to even want to do this job. She has shed over 23 or 25 senior staffers. Imagine that you're working for the first female vice president of color, and you don't want that job anymore. They basically all left, including the, if not especially the communications directors. But here's the problem with the whole premise. He's not going to get a primary competitor if he doesn't have primary debates. The head of the DNC, who's never really around, but he popped up to say, Jamie Harrison, to say there will be no debates. Competition in 2020 helped Joe Biden because he was way below in the pack. He didn't win Iowa, he didn't win New Hampshire. Competition would hurt him in 2024, but it's helping Trump. For all the talk about Trump is dead in the water after the midterms, he's not electable. The competition, the bigger the field, the more it helps Trump. The bigger the field, the more it hurts Biden.
Well,
now that's Kellyanne Conway, and we already know her backstory, but that is actually a good point that she makes there. Now I'm going to close out. So the Chris Hayes show had they had Simone Sanders, and I think her last name now is Townsend. Simone Sanders Townsend, who filled in for Chris Hedges. So I'm sorry, Chris Hayes. So I want to watch this as a closer because she does have a panel. And it's pretty funny. They briefly mention the fact that Joe Biden is not going to have a primary. They're not going to primary Joe Biden. He's the nominee, and that's it. And they just kind of move on from it. So let me shout out these. I'm going to shout out these. I'm going to shout out these super chats, and then I'm going to close out with this video. I'll start here. Justin B., brand new member, also says, I wonder how many RFK Jr. supporters will turn to support Cornel and how many will go to Trump when the DNC rigs the nomination. Thank you for the super chat, and that is a good question. I think a lot of them, independents and the left-leaning ones, will go to Cornel West, and probably the majority of the Republican ones will go to Donald Trump or whoever the Republican nominee is. That is my best guess. Here's another one from Justin B. I like to hear Ice Cube's take on Cornel running for president. That's more of what I'm interested in. That is actually something, if we are able to get him, and we're trying to get Ice Cube, find out the right people to contact so we can secure him, that'll be a question that we would ask about the presidential election and Cornel West specifically. I appreciate you, and that's from Marcos. Thank you for that super chat. And this, I think this is the last one. This one here. Lineage-based reparations, Dr. Cornel West. And thank you, Jamin Mason, for that super chat. And we're going to end with this video. It's very interesting. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Make sure you share. Thanks for joining on this holiday. I'm going to get going to some barbecue, and family is over. So they're just arriving. So I'm going to be heading off. So thanks for joining. Listen to this. This is very, very interesting.
Thank y'all for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's go.
Every campaign strategist nightmare. Joining us now are former Republican Congressman Carlos Corbello and Politico White House correspondent and playbook co-author Eugene Daniels. Carlos, let me start with you. How much do base Republican voters actually want their candidates to go after the LGBTQ community?
Look, Simone, there is a segment of the Republican primary electorate that finds this in some way attractive, can get behind this. It is a minority of the Republican electorate, but Ron DeSantis is clearly trying to do everything possible to catch up with Donald Trump. Now, at the end of the day, this is a fool's errand. Number one, it's wrong. It's very divisive. Donald Trump, for all of his flaws, I can tell you from personal conversations with him, doesn't have anything against the LGBT community, believes in equality. And for Ron DeSantis to attack him on this when there's so many issues to attack Donald Trump on is just a shame. Now, politically, the problem is that in a general election, swing voters in swing states and swing districts outright reject this kind of rhetoric, this kind of divisiveness, this kind of speech. So while Governor DeSantis might be trying to do himself a favor in this primary, trying to pick up some votes wherever he can, he's really setting himself up for failure if he actually gets past the primary.
You know, DeSantis is foray, if you will, wading into these divisive waters that he regularly swims in, if we're just going to be honest. It's like red meat for the 35%. Then you've got folks like former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and I think that he recently had one of the better Republican answers when it came to discussing the LGBTQ community. He framed decisions about trans health care for children as a parent's decision and not the government's. And I frankly think that he demonstrated you can give an answer that doesn't contain red meat. Can you survive a Republican primary that way, though, Carlos, in this particular climate?
These days, it really doesn't seem so, Simone. It's an experiment. Chris Christie's conducting it. He's not getting a whole lot of traction right now. But, again, for all of his flaws, you hear Donald Trump out there talking about abortion, for example, criticizing Ron DeSantis for the 6-week ban in the state of Florida. Even someone like Donald Trump, who has obviously adopted many extreme positions, understands what it takes to win and understands that you can't disqualify yourself entirely in a general election by taking these extremist positions, by saying things that swing voters in a lot of those districts that since the Republican trifecta of 2016 have gone Democrat. Well, that's going to continue as long as Republicans keep following this Ron DeSantis playbook. It isn't even the Donald Trump playbook anymore because Trump is rejecting some elements of it.
Donald Trump's playbook is so interesting and to me because on one hand, he's saying that about Ron DeSantis, and on the other, he's saying, I overturned Roe. It just makes no sense. So but that's the Republican primary. Eugene, there is not a Democratic primary because Joe Biden has decided to run for re-election, so he is the Democrats' nominee. Now, the White House, the president is running his campaign, and the White House has said that the president is going to continue to govern while he is doing this election situation. And I'm wondering about that strategy amidst what is a very tense political climate. And in a time where turnout is going to be the key when it does come to the general election.
Yeah, at the center of their message is that he is the person who put his hands on the wheel, and if you didn't like Donald Trump, he kind of eased things down a little bit in the country. That is at the center, and his governing, him being president, being in the White House, that's at the center of that. So that's part one. And so you've seen some of these events that they've done a little bit, but they've been mostly like policy events, right? They did the event about Roe v. Wade. They did an event around his economic message with a bunch of unions talking about that. That is what it's going to look like, I'm told, and that you're not going to see him out in the streets as much as maybe some folks would want him to. They often, we were talking right before we came on, they talk about how Barack Obama ran for re-election in 2012.
They say it'll look more like the Obama strategy.
Exactly, and these are two very different types of politicians. It is a very different time period in American politics, and Donald Trump was not running in 2012, right? Ron DeSantis was not running in 2012, and so you have Democrats a little nervous. They've been wanting to see him out there. They've been wanting him especially to see him more fundraising more, seeing Vice President Kamala Harris, the principals, Joe Biden and Doug Emhoff out there fundraising more. They've been doing more of that. I wouldn't expect a lot more to kind of satiate those people who are a little nervous until the end of this year, going into the beginning of next.
So we see, especially Donald Trump, Donald Trump is, whether people